No, there's not enough police out in Finglas at all. There's no patrol, there's no foot patrols around Finglas. I suppose there's not enough policemen down at the station. There isn't enough policemen. I mean, when we were younger, I suppose, the way I see it is, when we grew up in Finglas, I haven't seen any change in Finglas at all, except the population. That's all. The population is growing all the time, but that's it. The rest seems to stand still. There's nothing being done. There's no clubs being built. There has to be something done for these teenagers and young kids out here. I mean, I think that's why there's so much vandalism. They must be frustrated.
You see, if one offers them help, they'll take it. But nobody is offering them anything out there. It's not entirely their fault, don't forget. The government have failed to provide jobs. And without jobs, you're going to get vandalism, because boredom is the biggest problem they've got. Boredom, frustration. Frustration is vandalism. And that's the responsibility of the government.
People are actually afraid to report crime that they see in this area due to repercussions from the people that they would report. People have been threatened. You open your mouth about what you've seen me doing and we'll burden your house down. Now, this is the type of thing that is going around in this area. People are literally afraid, completely and utterly terrified of what is going on here in Finglas.
So do you see the problems that you've identified there really as just teething problems? Is that the way you look at it at the moment?
I see them as problems that I imagine can be overcome, going on the experience both of what development has taken place already in Finglas West and other similar communities around the city, where there have been these early stages where the large numbers of people moving in with perhaps multiple problems in some cases, that it takes a while for the area and the facility to build up to support that kind of community. It's happened in Ballyfermot, it's happened to an extent in Finglas West, and it's happening more rapidly even than in Finglas West and Finglas South.
You're saying it'll settle down, but the next crowd is coming up. What about the next lot of children coming up? I don't know what my son is going to do next. At the moment, he's only 13. What will he do if he gets in with this? He'll start doing it, won't he?
Maybe people are just sweeping under the carpet and thinking, oh, you know, this doesn't happen, my kid doesn't do this, my kid doesn't do that. And I think a lot of this, parents must take some responsibility for what's going on in this community. Now, I know there's a lot of people on the television, when they see me, they're going to say to me, who the hell does he think he is? I look after my kids. I'm saying there's some people in this community that do not look after their kids.
We always feel, you know, that in any one road you could pick out maybe a half a dozen families. But then you see when you have 127 roads in the parish, and you pick out 6 or 7 families, it gives you more than just a handful. It gives you a core of difficult problems.
I don't think that it is actually teething problems. I think it is the start of a major problem with teenagers in this area. As a matter of fact, in the whole of Dublin.
It's a nightmare. This place is just a nightmare. You have a headache going to bed and a headache when you wake up. That's what it is. My mistake was moving out here. That was the biggest mistake I ever made.
I was literally one night that, with me children being so upset, I was literally going to take an overdose of tablets, and I would have willingly done so. But I said then, well, your children are still to live here, so they'd be worse off without a mother.
How do you feel at the moment with your own grandchildren growing up here?
Well, I pray to God, and I still pray that they're not going to grow up in that respect. If they're going to be like this, what I see with the teenagers of the present day, I'd rather see them dead. I'd feel more happy than them dead than being involved in what's happening in the city at the present day.
That's a very strong statement.
It is a very strong statement, but I'd rather see that, because it's very hurtful on the parents of these boys. I'm only their grandfather, any of them. I have 9 grandchildren altogether, and so far they've never caused any trouble to me. But I'm thinking in future years, when they come to the age of 15 or 16, what's going to happen? Because they're going to follow where these little other boys that they're leaving after, teenagers. They've no place to say, well, I'm going to be different to him. They're just watching him and they're saying, well, anything he can do, I can do better.
So would you see it as an emergency situation at the moment?
Emergency, I think, to be quite honest, I think the emergency has passed and people have survived it. I think there was a time of much, knowing Finglas and having grown up there, there was a time of much greater neglect, and to me there are all the signs of movement now.
Well, given the problems of unemployment, overcrowding, poor community facilities, high levels of absenteeism from education and so on, I think, yes, we must define it as an emergency.
If you look at this map, under the right proposals for the future development of Dublin, it's intended to create 4 suburban towns. Number 1 being Tala, number 2 being Clondalkin, number 3 being Palmerston, and number 4 being Blanchardstown. Now these towns will consist very largely of working class housing, and are going to inevitably develop as one great amorphous mass of working class housing to the west of Dublin, while the more favoured classes will be housed in Howth, Malahide and Killiney. Now this will inevitably lead to an even deeper division between the classes in Dublin.
Finglas has developed very much as a sort of an amorphous mass with very little coherence, very little local identity. Our surveys for the National Economic and Social Council showed that the conditions in Finglas are quite typical of a variety of other local authority housing estates in the Dublin suburbs, Coolock, Ballyfermot, Cromlin, and so on. And indeed, I might say that they're also typical of some of the conditions in working class housing areas in other cities like Cork, Limerick, and some other places around the country.
No way are the Finglas problems unique. It is not confined to Finglas. This is a widespread problem. It's in every area. It's in Darndale, Coolock, Kilbarrack, Ballymun, Crumlin, Drimna, Walkinstown, you name any of the Donecarney, and that's even a settled area. But what you have is, we say you have an area of where there's a lot of vandalism and problems. You have people selling their houses to get out of it. And you have young couples moving in, which is going to start the recycle all over again, because their children are going to be brought up in the same environment. It's like a cancer, if you can understand. It's starting slowly, and it's going to spread.
Isn't it the case, Minister, that Finglas is by no means unique, that there are huge working class estates right across Dublin where people are equally deprived, equally neglected? Hundreds of thousands of people.
This is true, and the level of neglect is shocking. I said not just Finglas, but Ballymun in my own constituency. Now that's one constituency, and the examples there, the levels of deprivation, the position from which these people start life, move out, the options at any stage in their life are so much more limited than people who live 2 miles away. There is a total failure to appreciate that, and that there's a total lack of commitment still in our society to change it.
Now, I said I criticise a lot of parents before for not looking after their kids, but the government must take a major responsibility in this. They must. Not this government, governments before. The last government, the government before that, the government before that. These are the people that must take responsibility for where Finglas is now.
If we don't manage to reach those people, involve them, then I think we deserve all their criticism, and the potential direction of our society is something we will have to worry about, and we would deserve if it collapses.
It's not just enough, every 4 years to be loving to the people and to be throwing your arms around people and kissing babies. It has to go on all the time.
Basically what the politicians are asked to do, would you be able to get my daughter and son a flat somewhere? Would you be able to get them fixed up with reasonable accommodation? She's pregnant, or either she has the baby and she can't work. His job is not all that great. He only has so much money a week. These are basically the problems that the the politicians are in the area are dealing with. But there's no one going to them and saying, look, come around and say, I'm inviting them. I'll invite any of them to come into Finglas area, or for that matter, to come into any area of Dublin and see, let them open their eyes and see exactly what is going on in their constituencies as regards vandalism and crime. And this basically is the whole root of the problem. They are not aware of it, or if they are aware of it, they're not bothering to find out or do anything about it.
I feel that society will deserve a crisis if the response is not large enough. I found in my own appointment that very few people recognise the reality of the title I have, poverty. They react to it.